Welcome to Canada, the mysterious country sitting on top of America. A collaboration between Julia de Profetis and David Podbeer. Crappy neighbour. Canada is huge. In fact, the only country larger than Canada is Russia, so it's impossible to ignore it geographically. What's more, its citizens travel all over and are known internationally as extremely nice, and often quirky people. So why is this gigantic landmass ignored so much by the rest of the world? The easy answer has to do with Canada's next-door neighbours to the south. The USA is arguably the most powerful country in the world, so it's understandable that it gets all the attention. What's funny, though, is that Americans know so little about Canada, the closest country to us. For us, Canada means ice hockey, snow, and blubber-eating Eskimos. For Canadians, America is bad TV, ignorant rednecks, and fat people. The beauty of stereotypes is that in some small way, they are true. A popular Canadian TV show, now off the air, Talking to Americans, hilariously illustrated this point by asking Americans on the street simple facts about Canada. Most of them had no idea who the Prime Minister is, didn't know what a province was, and couldn't name the capital city, Ottawa. The show's host, Rick Mercer, also frequently got Americans to agree with ridiculous statements about Canada, such as congratulating Canada on officially joining North America. A distinct culture. What's sad about all of this is that Canada has a rich, vibrant, intelligent culture and distinct history all its own. It boasts some of the world's most innovative music scenes and pristine nature. Also, Canada managed to preserve its native ethnic cultures and integrate them into popular culture, as opposed to wiping them out and putting them in reservations and museums of natural history. Not pointing any fingers at the USA and Australia. But how does this cutting-edge culture define itself? Canadians usually find comfort in the things that are so typically symbolic of their country. Sports like hockey and curling, as well as most other winter sports, create a vibrancy and excitement that help get everyone through the bitter cold winters. The maple leaf on the Canadian flag is proudly displayed all over the country, symbolising Canada's gorgeous nature and foliage. From the Pacific Ocean and Rocky Mountains in the west to the deep forests and rich fishing areas in the east, outdoor activities also define Canadian life to a large extent. Go to Montreal. If you could only pick one place in Canada to go, you have to pick Montreal. The nightlife and the festivals are insane, and it's home to some of the best-looking and well-dressed people anywhere. If I have out-of-town friends visiting me in Montreal, they gawk at everyone walking down the street and say stuff like, "Is every single person in Montreal hot?" The official language. Located in the province of Quebec, Montreal also prides itself on being inside the only French-speaking province. It's a city run by the French and for the French. So if you want to work there, you have to speak French. Unfortunately, the English tend to stay away from the French, since they can't speak French and don't really want to learn. And most of the French don't like English. However, it is this clash of cultures which makes Montreal interesting. In Montreal, people speak Québécois. This strange mutation of French is so drastically different from European French that it's actually become a separate dialect. Based on 17th century French, it's not the prettiest thing you ever heard. Words are slurred, and perhaps the best way to describe it is to imagine a duck trying to speak French. Quack, 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 quoo, quack. While this may provide some confusion for travellers who aren't expecting it, us natives find the language issues to be simply amusing. Food. Of course, the French have contributed much more than just their language. All of the best and uniquely Canadian food comes from the French. For example, in Montreal, you can find poutine. To make this dish, get some French fries, melt cheese over them, and then soak them in hot gravy. Delicious? We think so too. In the trendier area of Montreal, there are restaurants where you can choose different types of cheese, such as Gouda, Camembert, Bola or Brie, to melt over your French fries. You can also choose how you want your cheese, thick or thin, and with various flavours of gravy. Montreal is also the home of maple syrup. You haven't tasted a pancake until you've tried one with real maple syrup. Maple syrup is the boiled sap from the maple tree. During the winter you can go north of Montreal and see maple syrup being made. There are also trips where you can even help prepare the syrup and then take it home. Music and cinema. Wherever you go in Montreal you can hear music in the streets. Musical events happen all year round in this city. Every Sunday the mountain next to Montreal is filled with drummers and dancers. An event that Montrealers like to call the bongos. It starts about 10 in the morning when the mountain begins to fill until it's packed by midday. The bongos themselves don't usually start until 11 or 12. Also around the mountain area is the area called the Ghetto, which is actually a rather attractive area of town where the McGill University students live for the school year. In the summer there's a great jazz festival. Montreal also has a really great retro cinema theatre in this area. Vieux Montreal. One of the most spectacular areas is the old city, Vieux Montreal. It's by the harbour front, where the city was founded. Some of Montreal's best architecture is in the old city. Go there on the weekend when it's full of street performers and carts selling popcorn. Finally, there is Outremont, which is on the other side of the mountain. The area is another very strange mixture of cultures. On the one hand, it has expensive cafes and stores and is populated by the yuppie population of Montreal, but there's another side to it, as it is home to Montreal's ultra-religious Jewish population. On a summer day, you will see the most unusual sight in this area, a yuppie in the latest fashionable clothing walking past a religious man wearing a similar black hat and jacket to the one his great-grandfather wore when he was freezing in the north of Russia. This issue of Cool English will give you a crash course in Canadian culture, covering music, comedy, websites and tons of interesting tidbits you never knew about Canada, as well as telling you why you should or should not visit sometime. Now, on with Canada!